It is Wednesday, December 13th, and Juwan Howard's future at Michigan remains unclear after an incident reportedly between himself and Michigan strength coach John Sanderson. Some reports have described the incident as physical. Others have stopped short of that. Either way, Brendan Quinn, the fabulous reporter and writer for The Athletic, according to Brendan, the incident is going through a university review process, and Juwan Howard remains under a zero-tolerance policy with the school, a policy that was instituted after he struck a Wisconsin assistant back in February 2022. Dead leg, weird story, obviously. What do you make of the situation at Michigan right now?
Yeah. All right. So we're obviously good morning to everyone watching live Wednesday morning here. We'll see if this story advances on Wednesday or not. Michigan's next game is scheduled for Saturday against Eastern Michigan. We've got a few things to touch on here, but you would think that we would have some sort of movement by the time we have to record again on Friday. But yeah, on Sunday night, it was Quinn who, after, some online rumor mongering, I guess, really started to spread heavy. It was late on Sunday where Quinn, he posted a note here on what his understanding of the situation was. The Detroit News subsequently confirmed that the only thing this is Michigan. I mean, it is as I wrote earlier this week, it is specializing in drama on a weekly basis here. I can confirm that there was some sort of confrontation between John Sanderson, the strength coach, and Juwan Howard. But the nature of that, why it happened, there's certainly some speculation out there as to what it is. We wait to see when there's more details on that. The fact that it is especially quiet at Michigan right now obviously indicates that the matter is relatively serious. You've also got the unusual sight of Sanderson not traveling. Like when we were recording on Sunday, Parrish, when we were doing our Sunday podcast, and near the end, I got a text about this situation, and basically, is Juwan Howard going to be done at Michigan? And I didn't understand what the hell it meant, period, because they had just won against Iowa on the road, and Howard was at the game. Sanderson was not. So this alleged confrontation happened late last week surrounding a Michigan practice, and normally a strength and conditioning coach will travel with the team. I mean, that's standard practice there. He did not. What we don't know yet is the reason for why he did not go with the team. Was someone else disciplining him? Was he on his own accord saying, I'm not traveling with this team and with Juwan right now? Or was it some sort of combination of people getting together and saying, you know what, it would be best for all parties if Sanderson didn't travel on this? Howard did go, though, and he remains, as we've mentioned previously this season, he remains around the team, but not the active head coach. He has been on the sideline, and what Parrish and I have described as something of an odd setup, where Phil Martelli has been the acting head coach. Phil Martelli has been the one doing the day before media availability and post-game press conferences, while Howard has at times been also, standing up and shouting commands to his team. He did get, I'm almost positive, he got run from one of the games in Battle for Atlantis, which is when he started traveling with the team and sitting on the bench. He did travel with the team as far back as Michigan's game against St. John's in New York City. I was there. I was curious he was going to be in the building. If he was never seen publicly. So it's a bizarre thing. I think Nada's got the tweet here. Jalen Rose also added to this on Sunday night. Obviously, Jalen Rose, his extremely famous former Fab Five teammate and their longtime very close friends. Jalen said, he's not stepping down. He's very much looking forward to, if you're watching, you can see it right now. I'll quote it directly. Juwan Howard did not and is not stepping down as head coach. He's enthusiastically hoping to return December 16th. Juwan is literally recovering from open heart surgery done September 15th. Hail. Now, since all this happened, we have heard from Juwan Howard, who decided to post a tweet on Monday, might have been. He went to a local children's hospital and just he shared a picture of a trip there. You can see some players. He's not in the picture. He took the picture, but yeah, he shared this on Tuesday, and we wait to hear more. So that's kind of the status of where we are. and the reporting to this point. But I'll send it back over to you, Parrish. I mean, we'll see if he maintains his position and he rejoins the team later this week. I have no idea what to expect, to be honest. If it wasn't physical, this might spare him any kind of separation from the program. But it is hit the point with Michigan here where previous events and behavior on Howard's behalf. This is why sometimes when coaches get fired or just terminated from their job, it's because in the future we're not even going to have to deal with any of this stuff. And yet you have this situation again. I'm not blaming all of this on Howard entirely. We don't know the nature of the confrontation, why it happened, and et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, come on, GP. Between Harbaugh and Howard, it's just one thing after another at that university. Obviously, not a good look whatsoever. I would hope we would have word from Ward Manuel, the athletic director, sooner rather than later.
They're either cheating or fighting in Ann Arbor. It appears they're going to steal your signs or get into a scuffle.
I know.
One of the two.
Yes.
The Detroit News has reported that it did not reach the level of a physical altercation. They're pretty definitive about that. Either way, we can just talk about this factually. Whatever happened, it did rise to a level where somebody was concerned enough where the strength coach is no longer traveling with the team. And again, according to Brendan Quinn, this is being, it's going through a university review process. All right, it's reached that. It was
outside the athletic department. It is elevated to that status, which I think is fairly serious.
So whatever happened, it rose to that level. It ain't nothing. Mm-hmm. We can wonder about what it actually was, but clearly it wasn't nothing. What Jalen Rose tweeted or said matters not at all to me, because we've seen this on the football side with Desmond Howard. I don't know why these guys are so eager to run to the defense of people who are doing more or less exactly what it is they've been accused of doing. But either way, Jalen's words, Juwan Howard is not stepping down. Okay, I didn't hear anybody say that he might. I think the question right now is they might fire him because he's on a zero tolerance policy, and he has been involved in at the very least an incident that rose to the level where the strength coach is no longer traveling with the team, and the incident is going through a university review process. The whole thing's weird. Everything about what's happening at Michigan basketball over the past year is weird. First off, they had a super talented team that wasn't good last season. That's the on-the-court stuff. You wonder why.
Yeah.
Then their best player, an All-American, transfers out of there, even though he says he was happy there, but couldn't get any real money. How's the University of Michigan not flourishing in NIL, in that NIL space? Then you've got Juwan Howard missing games because he's recovering from open heart surgery. Okay, that makes sense. But then returning to the bench, but still acting as the assistant coach. That's unusual. I'm on the bench and healthy enough to argue with officials so much so that I get thrown out of a game, but I'm not going to coach the team. Just weird, right? And then this was in the Detroit News story, which I think is also just strange. In the Detroit News story, it says Juwan Howard has not spoken to the local media since March 18th.
I know. I saw
that. Since they lost to Vandy in the NIT. How does a major college basketball coach not speak to the media even once throughout the entire offseason? Your son enters the NBA draft early. No comment. Your best player transfers to Kansas. No comment. You try to get Caleb Love. That doesn't go through.
Oh, yeah.
No comment. That's not normal. Well, the whole thing is just weird.
You're getting zero disagreement from me on that end. And it doesn't really matter to the point of what Howard's going through now, but it just is just the fact of the matter. And people that are covering Michigan, have covered Michigan, been in that area. Juwan Howard, maybe it's it's because of he spent 2 decades in the NBA before getting to college. He's arguably the least media friendly high major coach that's in the sport right now, and because it's Michigan, he can do it because it's allowed. How about that? But it is especially abnormal that
I don't even know why you would want to do it.
I agree, and trust me, there have been people multiple times that have gone to Juwan basically since he got to Michigan to try and get him to change his ways, and that has not happened yet. So when situations like this happen, yeah, it doesn't exactly put him in an advantageous position overall. It is strange. And on top of all this, Michigan has been like, it's had some highs. It got a 1 seed and made the Elite Eight early on in this tenure. They've had some good, and they've had some not so good. And for the fan base, I'd actually be curious to see where they sit right now with everything regarding Juwan and the status of the program. By no means is it, this Michigan is not cascading away into irrelevance. That's not the situation whatsoever. But it is also not at anywhere near the forefront of a national discussion in terms of being a successful program as of late. It's fighting to stay above 500. Wasn't projected as an NCAA tournament team this season, and it's a tad strange. And I await both some sort of formal acknowledgement from the university on this, and wait and see if we even get more reporting on this, because obviously I tried to get some stuff as well, but people are very tight-lipped around that university right now, and understandably so. I think the guards are up, tensions are a bit high, and this all ultimately falls on Juwan Howard, with the one exception here. I mean, he didn't know he was going to have to, or the fact that he needed open heart surgery is a factor in this in terms of his availability around the program in the preseason, and that I'm not going to put on him whatsoever. But the overall big picture and what this has been and his past behaviors, charging at Mark Turgeon, before the Joe Grabenhoff thing in 2022, there was a relatively high profile and bizarre encounter he had with Turgeon in the Big Ten tournament, where Howard needed to be held back. He got tossed from that game. Martelli coached the rest of that one. If anything, Michigan's fairly fortunate, and Howard had good foresight to bring on someone like Martelli. So you have someone who has 2 decades of head coaching experience, and it's probably helped the program in a significant way. But I don't know. The whole thing is strange here. And I thought, when this was all going down Sunday night, I thought by the time we got to Wednesday morning, we might have some real advancement here, but we straight up do not. So that tells me that the university review process just hasn't rendered any kind of verdict yet. But we should get one soon. They got to play another, they got to play a game in 3 days here. And you can't continue to not have any sort of contact with the public to let you know the status of your head coach and where your men's basketball program's at.
Yeah. Everybody remembers the incident with Joe Krabanoff, the Wisconsin assistant, in the handshake line. That's what created the zero tolerance policy at Michigan that could at least theoretically cost Juwan Howard his job right now. Before that, like you mentioned, March 2021, he gets into that heated exchange with Mark Turgeon, who was the coach at Maryland at the time, had to be restrained. And now we have this with his own strength and conditioning coach at Michigan. Whatever it is, again, it's enough to where it rose to the level that it's going through a university review process, and the strength and conditioning coach did not travel with the basketball team this weekend. Simply put, what it suggests to me is, and I'm not, too eager to diagnose somebody from a distance or at all, even though I am a doctor. Mm-hmm. But he seems to have like anger, like on a very basic level, like some sort of anger management issue. Like that's a real thing that people deal with. Like if you say something smart to me or do something weird to me, my instincts aren't to fight you. Like my head doesn't take me there. Yeah. But I do have friends who, or at least people I know, who have always been that way. They get just set off so very easily. Like I've seen it dozens of times. They just go from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. Mm-hmm. And Juwan Howard, again, I say this with, I'm not joking around. He appears to be similar. And he might have always been this way. Like I remember after the incident with the Wisconsin assistant. So that happened, I believe, on a Sunday afternoon. Because I think I remember podcasting about it.
It was a Sunday. I remember. Yes. Game was on CBS. We podcasted that night. Yes. It was.
I think that's the night I left my phone in my car service, and it went. My phone took off.
No, was it really the one, or went to Jersey? Yeah.
I think it was the same night. So that was a Sunday night, and then on Tuesday night, I guess I'm in studio here in New York, CBS Sports Network, and Wally Zerbiak's in studio with me, and we're just sort of talking about this, and I'm like, did you know Joe? Like, I'm just like, did you ever play against Juwan? Did you know he was like this? Wally's like, he tried to fight me one time in the middle of a game. YouTube it if you don't believe me. Just Juwan Howard and Wally Zerbiak. It'll pop right up. Juwan Howard trying to fight Wally Zerbiak when they were both players in the NBA. So he maybe has always had this quick fuse. And it seems obvious that on some level he struggles to control his emotions when things go to a certain place. I mean, I'll just keep simple. Juwan Howard has been in more almost fights, publicly known almost fights, in the past 3 years than I've been in my entire adult life.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Like, let's just keep it as simple as that. What I have seen Juwan Howard do, like with my own eyes over the past 3 years, is more aggressive than I've been at any point in my entire adult life with anybody. Like that's a problem, right?
Yeah, and it's, if you are like a high-ranking Michigan official, this has to be exhausting. Between everything with Jim Harbaugh and, you know, Michigan versus everybody, it feels like it's Juwan Howard versus everybody, frankly. That's really what the t-shirt should say, Juwan Howard versus everybody. But between all of the Jim Harbaugh stuff, the Connor Stallions, bet, all this stuff, and then you bring in the Howard stuff that has happened with regularity, it just feels like it is exhausting to be employed and affiliated with that university at a high-ranking level. Like Warren Manuel, bless him, he gets paid plenty for the job that he has, but at what point does it become worth it to have, you know, dealing with all these headaches? And then, like, on top of that, like, they're trying to get the Harbaugh stuff done with the new contract, and it's like, under no circumstances will you even entertain taking an NFL job. I don't know. Juice worth the squeeze. Now, Michigan football fans, I completely understand. You're the number 1 seed in the college football playoff and on the brink of an all-time national championship, but it has come at the expense of more mental anguish than you could possibly have ever dreamed of. The Howard stuff is a different bucket altogether. And yeah, you know, again, I don't know the nature of why this happened. And Sanderson not traveling to the game, I think, is a fairly important detail, because somebody or people made that decision. And I want to know whose decision it was. And was it made, like, with Sanderson, did he want to not go? Was he told not to go? Did he think it in the best interest? But it was obviously bad. The incident was bad enough that it's gone to university review above the athletic department, and having those 2 men in the same travel party was deemed not an appropriate action after whatever kind of encounter they had at Michigan practice. We'll wait and see on that. And if this was done, a point was made to me on Tuesday, I guess it was, if this happened on the practice court or somewhere, there's a decent probability that it was caught on video. Right. But if it was in like a hallway, longer as well.
Let's get the video. TMZ, what are you doing?
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
I mean, but to your point, like the Draymond Green Jordan Poole video, that was just a camera running on practice. Like there are often these days, there's just a camera going all the time.
That's right.
Yeah. In practice facilities. And so yeah, maybe we'll get the video. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, although it's believed not to be physical, you know, like no hands went, but it could have been just, you know, a heated moment. There's some speculation as to the nature of why they even got face to face. I'm not going to really dip into that because it hasn't been confirmed. But yeah, let's go on this, and let's just have some clarity one way or the other. And yeah, that's what I got.